I was driving north on Highway 93 in Montana, just after 1 a.m., the kind at night where the cold sits on the windshield, like a second layer of glass, and the sky turns into a black sheet without a single star. My rig was the only thing moving for miles, headlights carving a narrow path through the frozen dark. The snow on the shoulder lay untouched, smooth as skin, and the wind had completely died, leaving the world unnaturally still. Somewhere between mile markers 71 and 74, the road dipped into a long empty valley, flanked by pine forests. That's when my radio flickered, not with voices, just a low metallic hum, like something vibrating inside the wires. My dashboard lights faded, then brightened again, and the temperature gauge suddenly dropped a good 20 degrees, even though the heater was blasting. Up ahead, I noticed a faint light moving on the opposite side of the road. 2 headlights, but too dim, too slow, almost drifting instead of driving. As I got closer, the beams slid across the pavement like fog, but when they reached the lane divider, there was no engine sound, no tire noise, no shape behind the lights. They passed beside my cab without disturbing the air or casting any glare on my mirrors. I checked the side mirror and watched the strange lights dissolve into the darkness behind me, leaving the highway blank again. About 5 minutes later, I crested a small rise and nearly slammed the brakes. There was a truck pulled off on the shoulder, same model as mine, same color, same trailer, even the same stripe pattern down the side. The frost on the trailer doors matched mine exactly, right down to the thin, diagonal scrape on the left panel. For a second, I thought I was seeing a reflection on ice. But reflections don't sit still, don't stay perfectly solid in the snow. The abandoned rig looked like it had been there a long time. Tires half sunken in ice, snow piled around the hitch, and icicles hanging from the mud flaps like fangs. My headlights washed over the back door, and that's when I saw something carved into the frost. Not words, just a long horizontal line, with 3 short vertical scratches beneath it, almost like a tally that wasn't finished. A cold pressure filled the cab, and something made me look in the mirror again. My stomach dropped. Behind my truck, about 200 feet back, were the same 2 ghostly headlights I'd seen earlier, gliding slowly up the center of the road, getting closer without touching the pavement. I shifted into gear, pulled forward, and kept my eyes on the lane. The road felt different now, almost too smooth, too empty. The trees on the right seemed to bend slightly as if something massive had passed through them moments before. Snow started drifting sideways, but the wind was still dead silent. Then I noticed my headlights stretching farther than they should, projecting a long beam that curved upward into the dark, bending like it was being pulled toward something above the road. My speedometer needle stayed at 60, even though I could feel the engine working harder, humming deeper, shaking more. I risked one glance at the mirror. Those dim headlights were still behind me, but now they were higher, as if whatever they belonged to had risen off the road. The reflection in my mirror warped, like the glass was bending inward from pressure. Then the fog rolled in, fast, thick, spilling onto the highway like it had been waiting behind a curtain. It swallowed my headlights in seconds. The road disappeared, replaced by swirling white that moved like liquid. Through the fog, I could still see faint shapes, road signs, mile markers, even the outline of the forest. But each one flickered, glitching in and out like a video buffering in slow motion. My cab windows iced over from the inside, patterns crawling across the glass like something trying to write its way through. I leaned closer and realized the frost lines were forming the same strange scratches I saw on the abandoned trailer. A long horizontal line, 3 marks below it, a 4th line beginning to form. I don't know how long I drove blind through that fog, but when it finally thinned, the highway ahead was different. The asphalt was cracked, worn, and the center line looked faded, like a road years older than the one I'd been on. The mile markers were rusted, bent, and some were missing entirely. My GPS screen had gone blank except for a single message blinking over and over, "Arriving soon." I slowed down, my tires crunching over old frost. When the fog finally broke fully, I saw something that made my blood go still. I had looped back to the same abandoned truck, same half-sunken tires, same frost, same scratches in the exact same place. Except now, the tally mark had 4 scratches instead of 3, and on the back of my own trailer, etched fresh in the frost, was the beginning of a 5th. In my mirror, the phantom headlights were gone, but my trailer shook once, softly, like something settling inside it, and the road behind me was completely gone. Just snow, untouched, no tire tracks leading to where I'd come from, as if the highway itself had erased my path at the moment I passed. I put the rig in gear and drove toward the sunrise, hoping daylight would break whatever was following me. But the tally marks on my trailer door didn't melt, and every night since, when the temperature drops enough, a new scratch appears beside them. Something is counting, and when it reaches the end, I think the road will finally catch up with me. The highway running through northern Wyoming was always quiet at night, a long empty stretch where the wind whistled across the plains and the stars felt too close. Mark Dalton, a long-haul trucker with 20 years on the road, had taken this route hundreds of times. He knew every rest stop, every exit, every radio dead zone, but on this particular night, just past 1:13 a.m., something felt off. The moment his CB radio crackled with static that sounded almost like breathing. Mark turned the dial, but the breathing only grew louder, slow and deep, like someone was right beside the speaker. He shut the radio off completely, but the sound kept going for a few seconds before fading. The silence that followed felt heavier than the cold air outside. He tightened his grip on the wheel and rolled his shoulders, trying to shake off the unease. The road ahead stretched endlessly, illuminated only by his headlights and the pale white lines that flickered under his wheels. 10 minutes later, a strange fog appeared, thick, low, and swirling unnaturally. It moved across the asphalt as though it had weight. Mark slowed down, leaning forward to see better. He checked his GPS. It showed nothing unusual, just a straight highway for another 40 miles. But then, through the fog, he saw a road sign he'd never seen before. Rest stop 1 mile, open. There was no rest stop here. There had never been one. Every trucker knew the stretch was barren. Still, the sign glowed bright, new, almost too clean compared to the old, weather-worn signs around it. Mark's hands tingled on the wheel. Curiosity overpowered caution, something he'd regretted almost immediately, and he continued. The rest stop appeared abruptly, bursting out of the fog with bright white lights that hummed loudly. The pavement looked freshly poured, the vending machines were lit, and the bathrooms looked brand new. Everything was spotless, untouched. Mark parked his truck, engine idling uneasily, headlights flickering like they didn't want to stay on. As he stepped out, the air felt thick and cold, should have been. The fog coiled around his boots like it was alive. The humming from the lights wasn't electrical. It was rhythmic, almost breathing-like. His instincts screamed to leave, but the eerie calm of the place forced him to walk forward. He approached the vending machines. Inside, the snacks had no labels, just blank wrappers. The soda cans were completely silver with no markings. It was like everything was a placeholder for something that wasn't fully formed. The restroom door creaked open slowly, as if inviting him in. Against every instinct he had, Mark stepped inside. The interior was spotless, white tiles reflecting the buzzing lights above. But something felt wrong. There was no mirror, no trash can, not even a sink. Just empty space where everything should have been. The stalls were closed, all of them. And then, one stall door slowly began to open on its own. Mark stepped back, heart pounding. Inside the stall was nothing, just more empty tile. But then he noticed something. The floor had faint, wet footprints, as if someone had just stepped out. Bare feet, and they lead behind him. He turned. No one was there. The humming grew louder. The lights flickered rapidly. The fog outside began seeping under the door, filling the restroom with a cold, suffocating whiteness. Mark stumbled out of the building, coughing, eyes burning. When he reached his truck, his headlights were completely dead. His engine sputtered, then went silent. The rest stoplights shut off, all at once. Total darkness. Then, a single white floodlight snapped on above the building entrance, illuminating a tall, shadow-like figure standing just outside the restroom. Its limbs were long and thin, its head tilted unnaturally to the side. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It simply watched him. Mark bolted into his truck, slamming the door and locking it. But when he looked into his side mirror, he saw the figure was now right beside his window, though he hadn't heard a single step. Its face was pale and smooth, almost human but not quite, like a face that wasn't finished. It lifted a hand, thin, long, too many joints, and tapped on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. Each tap felt like it echoed inside his skull. Then his radio crackled back on, the same breathing static returning. But this time, a voice whispered through it. "You shouldn't be here, Mark." His blood turned to ice. He didn't respond. He didn't move. He just stared straight ahead, shaking. Suddenly, all the lights of the rest stop turned back on. The figure vanished instantly, like it had never been there. The fog receded. His truck engine roared back to life on its own. His headlights flickered alive. Mark threw the truck into gear and floored it. The rest disappeared in his rearview mirror within seconds, swallowed by the dark highway behind him. After 10 minutes of driving, the fog cleared completely. The sky brightened. His GPS recalculated. Then he looked at the clock. It was 1:13 a.m. again, the same time he first heard the breathing, the same moment everything had begun. He checked his odometer. He had driven 12 miles, but his GPS claimed he hadn't moved at all. There was no rest stop on the map. There was no fog. There was no detour. Just an empty straight road. And then, his CB radio crackled once more, the breathing louder than ever. A final whisper slipped through. "Next time, don't stop." Mark drove the remaining miles with his foot glued to the accelerator and his eyes glued to the road, never stopping again on that highway. And to this day, truckers still report seeing a glowing rest stop sign in the fog. A place that isn't real. A place that waits for those who slow down. a place that wants them to. The highway through rural Kansas was usually nothing more than a dark ribbon cutting between endless fields, a place where the night swallowed every sound, and the fog rolled in so thick that it seemed to have a mind of its own. On most nights, the trucker felt comfort in the predictable emptiness of it, long stretches of silence broken only by the soft hum of his engine and the occasional distant whine of wind drifting across the plains. He had driven this route so many times that he could picture every mile even with his eyes closed. The broken wooden fences half buried in dry weeds, the abandoned service road that once led to a farm, long since reclaimed by nature, and the tall grass waving like a restless ocean under the moonlight. But on this particular night, something felt wrong before anything even happened. The fog that lay across the fields wasn't normal. It hugged the ground in thick, pulsing waves, drifting in slow patterns as if responding to something unseen. Even the air felt heavier, colder, as though the night had aged suddenly. The trucker kept glancing between the road and the dashboard clock, watching the minutes crawl by. When it clicked over to 12 a.m., a faint shiver ran down his spine for no reason he could explain. Then the darkness ahead broke open. At first, he thought it was a trick of the headlights cutting through the fog. But as he slowed down, the glow sharpened into a strange bluish-white light that didn't match any street lamp or sign he'd ever seen on this highway. As the fog thinned near the edges of his high beams, the outline of a rest stop emerged, clean, bright, and fully lit, as if someone had dropped a brand new facility in the middle of nowhere. He stared at it in disbelief. Hours earlier, under clear daylight, he had passed this same spot. It had been nothing but dirt, tall grass, and empty land stretching for miles. No pavement, no buildings, no lights. Yet now a rest stop stood quietly at the roadside, its concrete lot flawless and freshly painted, the floodlights shining like a sterile hospital room. The vending machines glowed softly behind their glass panels, humming with perfect mechanical rhythm. The restroom sign flickered with a pale electric buzz that sounded just a little off, almost like a breath caught between syllables. Thick fog curled along the ground in thin white layers, drifting between the painted parking lines and swirling around the bases of the vending machines. The trucker watched it for a moment, feeling the unsettling sensation that the fog wasn't moving randomly. It was flowing with purpose, gathering in clusters, spreading out like fingers searching the concrete. The humming of the lights didn't comfort him. There was something unnatural in the way they buzzed. Too slow, too steady, too rhythmic, like a long inhale followed by a long exhale. It sounded less like electricity and more like someone breathing above him. He stepped out of the truck anyway, because curiosity and exhaustion pushed him forward. The cold hit him instantly, not the crisp cold of a normal Kansas night, but a deep, heavy cold that settled into his bones the moment he exhaled. His breath came out in a thin mist that seemed to linger too long in the air before dissolving into the fog. There were no insects chirping, no rustling of grass, no distant engines, not even wind. It was the kind of silence that pressed against his eardrums, making his own heartbeat sound loud in his head. The vending machine closest to him vibrated faintly, giving off a low metallic rattle. He approached it slowly, feeling a strange resistance in the air. As if the fog thickened the closer he got, he slid $1 into the slot, the bill disappearing smoothly. He waited for the familiar clunk of a soda can dropping, but instead, he watched, frozen, As the can inside began to rise upward, it lifted smoothly, silently, defying gravity, gliding toward the top of the machine until it vanished into the darkness beyond the display case. It didn't fall. It didn't rattle. It simply disappeared. A faint, metallic clang followed, echoing from deep inside the machine. Too deep, like there was a hidden room back there where something had just stored it away. His pulse quickened. He stepped back instinctively. The restroom door creaked then, slowly, deliberately, opening just a few inches. The hinges squealed softly, not in the random stutter of a loose door, but in a smooth, controlled motion, as though someone unseen was pushing it open inch by inch. Freezing air spilled out from the darkness inside, even colder than the chill outside. The lights in the restroom flickered, dimming and brightening in long pulses. As he approached the entrance, drawn by some combination of fear and disbelief, the sinks inside clicked on one by one. Thin streams of water trickled out, perfectly synchronized, each faucet opening at the exact same pace. The sound of running water echoed eerily in the empty tiled space. Then the stall door at the far end began to sway gently. Forward, back, forward, back. Not fast, not like it was being shaken by a breeze, but slowly, methodically, like someone on the other side was shifting their weight from one foot to the other in anticipation. The air thickened. His chest tightened as if the room had suddenly become smaller, the oxygen heavier. Each breath felt like inhaling cold syrup. And then, every light in the building died at once. Darkness swallowed the room, complete and suffocating. He stumbled backward, his hand gripping the cold metal edge of the door frame as he tried to retreat into the faint glow of the rest stop outside. But the moment he stepped out, the entire facility went dead. The floodlights shut off. The pavement glow vanished. The vending machines went silent. Every sign turned black. It was as if the place had never existed at all. He spun around in confusion, but where the highway should have been, wide and straight, there was now only an endless open field stretching beneath the moonlight. The asphalt was gone, replaced by gently swaying wet grass that shimmered as if recently disturbed. He took a hesitant step toward his truck, but the moment his foot touched the ground, he heard it. A soft, wet slap of footsteps on concrete. One pair at first. Slow, dragging. Then another pair joined it. Then several more. The sounds multiplied rapidly, echoing from every corner of the empty rest stop lot. Dozens of footsteps. Some fast, some slow, all closing in. He couldn't see a single person, but he could hear them clearly, surrounding him, circling him, moving in patterns that felt too purposeful to be random. His headlights flickered violently, cutting across the fog. The beam revealed distortions, vague, human-shaped patches in the mist that shifted and twisted before dissolving into nothing. Panic seized him. He sprinted to the truck, threw himself inside, and slammed the door shut. Instantly, the footsteps stopped. The silence that followed was so sudden and absolute, it made his skin crawl. He turned the key. The engine roared to life. When he looked back through the windshield, the rest stop was fading, its structure peeling away like fog dissolving in sunlight. The building, the pavement, the lights, all disintegrated into the night until nothing remained but open land. His GPS pinged softly, recalculated, and displayed something that made his stomach drop. A blank map, a floating truck icon, no roads, As he drove forward, trying to find anything familiar, he felt his tires roll over dampness. Not rainwater, footprints, hundreds of them, stretching behind him into the fog where the rest stop had once been, like something had walked into existence and then walked away.